My son laughed and said, "You've always been a burden in our lives, Mom. Just stay home this Christmas." I replied, "Then I'll stop paying the mortgage installments on your house that are in my name." The entire room froze in silence, and he asked, "What installments?" It was Christmas Eve, the 23rd of December, 2023, at 6:30 the evening, at my daughter-in-law Lauren's house in Miami Beach, on Collins Avenue, in one of those elegant 1990s buildings with a uniformed doorman and a marble lobby. The whole family was gathered in the living room. My son Marcus, 32 years old, my daughter-in-law Lauren, 29, my two grandchildren, Olivia, 8, and Ethan, 5, and me, Evelyn Hargrove, 68 years old, retired from Chase Bank after 40 years of loyal service. The smell of ham baking in the oven mixed with Lauren's expensive perfume, one of those imported ones that cost more than my weekly salary. The lights on the Christmas tree blinked in a hypnotic rhythm, reflecting off the golden ornaments she insisted on buying every year from the upscale shops in South Beach. The kids played on the Persian rug, another gift from me, I might add. Meanwhile, the adults chatted on the Italian leather sofa. It all started when Lauren, with that superior attitude of hers, that posture of someone who thinks she was born with a silver spoon, announced the plans for New Year's Eve. She was sitting in the main armchair, the blue velvet one I had bought for them last year, wearing a red dress that cost over $800. I know because I saw the tag when she left the bag behind. "This year we're spending New Year's at my family's place in the Keys." She spoke while running her hand through her freshly highlighted hair. Those blonde streaks she touched up every 2 months. "It'll be at my Aunt Sonia's beach house, the one with the pool and the grill on the deck. There'll be fireworks on the beach, the whole family together." She paused, looked at me with that fake smile I knew so well, and added, "Mrs. Hargrove, you understand, right? It's real family, blood relatives. You can stay comfortable here at home, watching the ball drop on TV, making your little dinner." I felt my heart tighten in my chest, as if someone had tied a knot. After 40 years raising this boy alone, following his father abandoning us when I was 6 months pregnant, and now I was being treated like a stranger. But I swallowed hard, took a deep breath, and tried to maintain my composure. After all, it was Christmas Eve, and the children were there, but the worst was yet to come. Marcus, my son, my only son, sprawled on the leather sofa I had bought for them with last year's bonus, let out a laugh. It wasn't a nervous little chuckle, it was a mocking guffaw, the kind that makes a person feel tiny. "Yeah, Mom," he said, "you've always been a burden in our lives anyway. Stay home this Christmas, watch your shows, make your little meals. We need some time to be a family, you know." Lauren let out a mean little giggle and covered her mouth with her hand, as if trying to hide that she found the situation funny. The grandchildren stopped playing and looked at me with those confused little eyes, not fully understanding what was happening. And I felt a rage rise like fire in my chest, a mixture of pain, indignation, and revolt that almost made me sick. My hands started shaking, my heart raced, and I tasted that bitter flavor in my mouth that always comes when you're extremely nervous. 40 years killing myself at work, leaving home at 6 a.m. to catch a crowded bus, enduring rude bosses, saving every penny to give this boy a good life, and he calls me a burden in front of his wife and his own children. That's when a strange calm took over me. You know that moment when you're so indignant that you stop feeling anything? I stood up slowly from the chair, straightened my blouse, looked my son straight in the eyes, and spoke with a voice I didn't even know I had. "All right then, Marcus. If I'm a burden in your lives, I'll make things easier. I'll stop paying the mortgage installments on your house that are in my name." The silence that fell over that room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Lauren turned white as a sheet, her mouth half open, as if she'd seen a ghost. Ethan stopped in the middle of playing with his toy car. Olivia looked at me with those big eyes, not understanding anything. And Marcus, my son, looked at me with the face of someone who had just woken up from a dream, completely lost. "What installments, Mom?" At that exact moment, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. My own son, my only son, had no idea how he had gotten that beautiful 3-bedroom house in Miami Beach with an ocean view, valued at over $1.2 million. He really thought he had achieved everything on his own with his systems analyst salary, which at the time didn't exceed $4,000 a month. My heart raced even faster. My hands shook so much I had to hold onto the coffee table to keep my balance. 40 years of sacrifice, giving up everything for his happiness. And my son didn't even know how he had acquired the roof over his own children's heads. "What do you mean, what installments, Marcus?" Lauren asked. And for the first time since I'd known her, she seemed genuinely worried, not superior. I looked at the two of them, those two adults living in a bubble of fantasy, and thought, my God, what have I created? But what I still didn't know was that that Christmas Eve would be just the beginning of a discovery that would change everything forever. If you've ever been through a similar situation with family, leave a comment telling me what you would do in my place, and let me know where you're watching from. I want to know if there are others going through this across the country. Let me go back in time a bit and explain how I got to that devastating moment on Christmas Eve, because you need to understand that this story didn't start out of nowhere. It was a slow build over years and years of small signs that I ignored, thinking it was all in my head. My name is Evelyn Hargrove. I'm 68 years old, a widow in practice since I was 28, when my husband left me pregnant at 6 months to live with a 19-year-old girl he met at work. At the time, I worked as a teller at Chase Bank, earning very little, living in a small 2-bedroom apartment in a modest neighborhood that my father had left me as an inheritance. When my husband abandoned me just like that, without warning, he left a note on the kitchen table saying he had found his true love. I thought my life was over. I was pregnant, alone, with a salary that barely covered my own needs, let alone raising a child. But you know how it is. An American woman doesn't give up easily. I gathered my courage, focused on work and my growing belly. For 40 years, every dollar left from my paycheck went toward my boy's future. I started as a teller earning minimum wage, took night courses, specialized, and ended my career as a senior account manager, earning $8,500 a month. Marcus was born on the 15th of March, 1991, at 2 a.m. in the hospital. I had saved throughout the entire pregnancy to pay for private health insurance because I wanted him to be born with every dignity in the world. I still remember his first cry, that red and wrinkled little face, those tiny fingers gripping my finger. From a young age, he was my absolute priority. I paid for private school, the good Catholic school in the area, that cost $250 a month at the time, almost a third of my salary, but I made any sacrifice. While other mothers bought clothes for themselves, I bought books for him. While they went to the salon, I saved for Marcus's English classes, but even in adolescence, I began to notice something strange. He expected everything to fall from the sky. Mom, all my friends have video game consoles, he would say at 14, and I would run to get it. I worked overtime, took out loans to buy that Nintendo that cost $500 back then. Mom, I need brand-name sneakers so I don't get embarrassed at school. And there I went again, buying those $180 sneakers. I always justified it. He's an only child, the poor thing. He doesn't have a father. I'll give him everything he needs. But looking back, I realize I created a monster of dependency. When he finished high school, Marcus wanted to study information systems at a prestigious private university. You know how much that cost at the time? Over $2,300 a month. I earned $4,500, so more than half my salary went to his tuition. I had to take out bank loans, use my retirement savings, even sell some jewelry my mother had left me. But I thought, it's an investment in his future. When he graduates, he'll have a good life. He'll take care of me in my old age. During his 5 years of college, Marcus never worked, not an internship, not a weekend job. Mom, I need to focus on my studies, he would say. And I agreed. I paid for tuition, materials, transportation, food, clothes, everything. When he graduated in 2014, he got a job at a tech company, earning $3,500 a month. I was so proud my son, with a degree from a good university, earning a decent salary at 23. But that's when the first strange signs began. Marcus met Lauren at a graduation party in 2015. She was 21, had graduated in marketing from a local college. Her family was middle class. At the time, I even liked her. She seemed like a polite, nice, well-groomed girl. But right from her first visits to our apartment, I started noticing odd behaviors. Lauren had a habit of making pointed observations. "Mrs. Hargrove, don't you think these curtains are a bit outdated for such a nice apartment?" she would say, running her hand through her hair with that superior air. "These furniture pieces have a vintage look, right? Retro style. How interesting." I would feel awkward, but I thought, she's young, she has different tastes. Worse was when she commented on my clothes. "Mrs. Hargrove, that blouse is lovely. It must have been expensive, right?" I saw something similar at a department store the other day, always with that smile that didn't reach her eyes. But what bothered me most was how she treated the food I made. I always went all out when they came for lunch. I'd make the lasagna Marcus loved, with garlic bread and a fresh salad, and Lauren always had some comment. Wow, this is really rich. You guys like hearty food, huh? Or I'm trying to cut carbs. Mrs. Hargrove, do you have any salad? They dated for 3 years and got married in 2018. The wedding was at her family's club, and I paid half of everything, $5,000 out of my pocket for the dress, decorations, music, and sweets. I wanted my son to have a beautiful wedding. After the wedding, they rented a 2-bedroom apartment in Miami Beach near their jobs. Marcus had been promoted and was now earning $4,000. Lauren worked at a small advertising agency earning $2,800. Together they made almost $7,000, which was good money for a young couple. But in 2019, when Olivia was born, everything changed. They came crying to my apartment one Sunday afternoon, the baby in arms, both with desperate looks. "Mom," Marcus said in that dramatic way he had since childhood, "we need to get out of this apartment. 2 bedrooms is too small for a family. Olivia deserves a house with space to play," Lauren added, rocking the baby. "Mrs. Hargrove, we found a beautiful house in Miami Beach. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, laundry room, even a nice balcony, but it's expensive, $850,000. My heart tightened when I heard the amount. It was more money than I had ever seen together in my life. "We don't even have a down payment, and our credit isn't strong enough for financing," Marcus continued. "Lauren is on maternity leave. Only I'm working. The bank won't approve the loan in just my name." That's when my mother's heart spoke louder. I looked at that little granddaughter sleeping so innocently and thought, "Evelyn, you've worked your whole life, saved up, and have a good retirement. What is money for if not to give your family a good life?" I had my retirement of $8,500 a month plus some savings. I put my old apartment as collateral. I used my clean credit score from 40 years of paying everything on time and financed the entire house in my name. In the beginning, after they moved into the new house, everything seemed normal. Marcus visited me every Sunday. He brought the grandchildren to spend weekends with me. We'd have lunch together. He even helped with the groceries and washed the dishes afterward. But slowly, almost without me noticing, things changed. "Mom, we're still organizing the new house. There's so much to do," he would say when I asked about Sunday visits. The visits went from every Sunday to every other Sunday, then once a month, then only on birthdays and major holidays. Lauren started posting on social media as if she owned everything. "Our new home," she wrote in captions, showing the decorated living room. "Our achievement," when posting pictures of the balcony. "Our dream realized," when showing Olivia's room all set up. In no photo, no post, no caption did she ever mention I existed. And worse, when I commented on the photos trying to participate in their lives, she would take days to reply with dry responses. "Thanks, Mrs. Hargrove. Glad you liked it." But what I still didn't know was that all of this was just the beginning of a much more elaborate scheme than I could ever have imagined. It was in August 2021, on a hot and humid Tuesday, that I began to suspect something was very wrong. I had gone to renew the insurance on my apartment with my longtime agent, Mrs. Marlene. She was a woman in her 70s, old school, honest. I was sitting in her small office when she frowned at the computer screen. "Mrs. Hargrove," she said, adjusting her thick glasses, "the system shows you have 2 properties registered in your name. Do you want to include the Miami Beach house in the insurance too? It'll be cheaper to bundle them." I felt a chill in my stomach. "What do you mean, Mrs. Marlene? What Miami Beach house?" She turned the screen toward me. There it was, clear as day. Evelyn Hargrove, owner of the apartment and of a house on Collins Avenue in Miami Beach. "But that's not right," I said, feeling my heart start to race. "That house belongs to my son and daughter-in-law." Mrs. Marlene looked at me over her glasses with the face of someone who had seen it all. "According to the official county records, you are the owner. Documents don't lie." I left there with a strange feeling in my chest. On the bus ride home, I kept turning it over in my mind. How could that be? Marcus had always said he was building equity and that the house was in his name. The following Thursday, I couldn't stand the curiosity anymore and went to the county property records office downtown. I woke up early, took the bus, waited in the long line. The clerk, a young man, took my documents, typed something into the system, printed papers, and handed them to me. "Here is your updated property certificate." I took the papers with trembling hands and read slowly. There it was in black and white. Owner Evelyn Hargrove, mortgage with the bank, monthly payments of $2,400 due on the 15th. I sat down on one of the plastic chairs and tried to process what I was reading. The house was entirely in my name. The entire mortgage was my responsibility. The $2,400 payments came out of my account automatically every month. How had I not known this? How had I been paying for a house for 2 years without realizing it? I got home and went through all my bank statements from the past 3 years. I sat at the kitchen table, spread out the papers, and started adding them up. Automatic debit of $2,400 every 15th for over 2 years, 28 months, $67,200, plus other strange debits. Homeowner's insurance, $250 a month. Property taxes, $470. HOA fees, $320. Over $1,000 a month in expenses I didn't even know I was paying. I called the bank. After 20 minutes on hold, I spoke with a representative. Mrs. Hargrove, these debits were all authorized by you personally at the branch in March 2019. We have your signature on the contract. March 2019. Right around the time Marcus and Lauren came with that story about needing the house for the baby, I vaguely remembered signing some papers, but they had said it was just to make the process easier and that they would transfer everything to their names later. From then on, I started paying closer attention to their spending. When I visited them on the rare occasions I was invited, I observed everything with new eyes. The fridge was always full of expensive items, imported cheeses, wines over $100, out-of-season fruits. Lauren used beauty products that cost over $300 a jar. The children's clothes were all designer brands. A simple t-shirt cost $80. Marcus had been promoted to $7,500 a month. Lauren was earning $4,200. Together, $11,700 net. But their spending didn't match that income. New car every year, always financed. Expensive restaurants every weekend. Trips to the Keys. Even a vacation to the Bahamas that cost over $8,000. When I once asked how they could afford it all, Marcus gave me an answer I now know was a lie. "Oh, Mom, we budget well. Lauren is great with spreadsheets." In December 2021, while organizing my bag, a credit card statement fell out. When I saw the balance, I almost fainted. $4,300. I called the bank immediately. The representative explained that I had an authorized user card in Marcus's name since March 2019. The limit was $8,000 and it had been used regularly. I protested I had never authorized it, but again, they had my signature on file from the branch. I asked for the detailed statements for the past 12 months. Marcus had spent over $42,000 on my card that year alone. Expensive restaurants, designer clothes, electronics, a huge TV, and trips. It was in January 2022 that I discovered the full extent of the scheme. My neighbor, Mrs. Alba, who had lived in the building for over 30 years, stopped me in the hallway with a worried look. "Evelyn, I need to tell you something. Yesterday afternoon, your son was here with a real estate agent. They were measuring your apartment, taking photos, talking about renovations. I felt the floor disappear beneath my feet. I confronted Marcus. He hesitated, then said casually, 'Mom, we were thinking since you live alone in this big apartment, it would be more practical for you to move in with us. Then we could sell your place and buy a bigger house with a yard for the kids.' That information left me in total panic. I investigated further at the DMV and discovered 3 cars had been financed in my name since 2019. I was paying for the house, the car, the credit card, health insurance for the whole family on my plan, and more. In total, over $7,000 a month was coming out of my $8,500 retirement. I was living on less than $1,500 without knowing it. I also discovered loans taken out in my name totaling tens of thousands of dollars, and my apartment had been used as collateral for a $100,000 loan. In March 2022, I confronted Marcus. After lunch, I told him what I had discovered. He shrugged and said, "So what, Mom? You have good credit. It was easier this way. The house is ours anyway." When I pointed out I was spending almost my entire retirement supporting their lifestyle, he showed a side I had never seen. "Mom, you've already lived your life. Now it's our turn. You've done your part." Those words chilled me. I consulted my trusted lawyer, Mr. Michael Harrington. He explained the legal options and helped me prepare the evidence. After a difficult meeting where Marcus threatened to cut off access to the grandchildren and called me selfish, I decided to take action. I cancelled all powers of attorney, blocked new loans, and issued a notice for them to vacate the house. It was painful, but necessary. After they moved out to a rental, I rented out the Miami Beach house for $4,000 a month, which greatly improved my quality of life. Over time, Marcus apologized, learned some hard lessons about responsibility, and we established clear boundaries. The grandchildren visit regularly, and our relationship is healthier now, based on respect rather than dependency. I learned that love without limits becomes disrespect, and that it's never too late to reclaim your dignity. At 70 years old, I'm living the best phase of my life with financial independence and peace of mind.